All right, hello again. So in this video, we are going to go over retouching people um, with various techniques, lots of techniques. So this is sort of a mix of older and newer techniques. This kind of thing changes all the time as Adobe updates Camera Raw and Photoshop. So you'll have to roll with it if something changes by the time you see this. Okay, so hopefully I gave you these images. Since I'm a nice guy, I gave you these images to start with. So if we're going to start with this one called Advanced Skin Softening Camera Raw Clarity. I tried to put some of the techniques in the name. So I'm going to right-click on this. Since these are JPEGs, I'm going to right-click on this and go to Open in Camera Raw. And then I'm going to go over to the masking tool, right, and click on that. And it's going to find this person using AI. A lot of this is AI based, but yeah. So it's going to find this person. I'm going to click on that. And then I'm just going to go to facial skin and click on that and click create. And I could subtract the lips maybe, but I'm just going to try to go a little more quickly. So I've got the face selected, and all I'm going to do now is go down to effects. And in this, using the masking this way, the effects is where you're going to find clarity. So clarity is down there. So clarity adds sort of mid-level contrast, but you can go negative clarity. So if I go to the right, it starts to look pretty horrible, right? But if I go to the left, it does some smoothing. So I'm hitting P on the keyboard to show you the before and after. So obviously you can dial in the amount you want. If you do it too much, it looks kind of strange, but I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to click done, and that's it. So that's one way to do it. The next one we're going to do is the Neural Engine. So this one is in Photoshop. So I'm going to double click on this one that says Neural Engine. And this time I'm going to go to Filter, and I'm going to go to Neural Filters. And this is, some of these you might have to download. So if it has a little, these are neural filters, machine learning things, right? So if I go in here and they have a little download, that means they're in the cloud. So you can download these to your local computer if you want. So what I'm going to do now is go up to skin smoothing, because that's what we're doing, right? I'm just going to turn that on, and it does it, right? So you can play with these sliders. Sometimes you might want to go a little less blur, and then smoothness, I'm going to go to the right, and then here I'm going to go to the left. So I can turn this on and off and see that smoothing. So you can dial it in as much as you want, and you don't want to make it look ridiculous, right? But there you go, a little bit of smoothing there. So that's doing it using the Neural Engine. So I'm just going to click OK. Now what I might have done on that one is make a new layer before I did that, so I'd be able to see the before and after, or mask away part of it. That might be a better move. And that goes for a lot of these techniques. You might want to duplicate the layer, and then so you can show or hide parts of the layer that you actually do stuff to. Because now I've changed those pixels kind of permanently. But keep that in mind. The next one is blemishes. So I'm going to do this one I'll just do this one in Photoshop. You can do this very similarly in Camera Raw, but I'm just going to double click, open this in Photoshop. I'm going to go up, zoom in here a little bit. And he's a terrible looking person, so I'm going to get rid of some of these blemishes. Not really, I'm just kidding. And I'm going to go over to the spot healing brush right there. And this is very similar in Camera Raw, but I'm doing it here in Photoshop. So then I just use my square bracket keys to make a brush slightly bigger than the blemish. And let me zoom in so you guys can see a little better. So these aren't really blemishes, you know. I'm kind of joking around that this guy needs this, but say you want to get rid of a mole or a blemish or anything like that. That's pretty easy. You just click and remove it. There is also some other tools. There's a healing brush, a remove tool, but the spot healing brush works well with that. We're going to use the patch tool in a little while. There's different variations on this, but I don't want to make this video 6 hours long. So that's good. I think that's good. The next one we're going to do is brightening eyes using Camera Raw. So I'm going to right click on this one. This is Camera Raw. I'm going to go into Open in Camera Raw. And then I'm going to go use the mask again right over here. So I click on masks, right? And then I'm going to click on the person again. It finds the person. And this time I'm going to do the eye sclera, which is the white parts of the eyes. And then I'm going to click create. So I checked on eye sclera, and then I'm going to click create, and that makes a little mask for just the whites of her eyes, right? And then I'm just going to go on exposure and increase the exposure just a little bit, just to brighten the whites of her eyes. And then I'm going to go down to saturation and remove a little bit of saturation in case there's any, she's got red eye or any sort of discoloration in the white parts of her eyes. Then I'm going to add another mask. So I'm going to go up to create new mask and select people. And it's the same person, right? This time I'm going to do the iris and pupil right there. And you can see when I roll over that, it shows you what you're going to select. It makes them look like kind of scary eyes. But I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to click create. And this time I'm going to raise the exposure a little bit as well. But I'm also going to increase the contrast and bring up the shadows. Now, if I do it too much, she looks like she's an Avenger or something, you know, superhero. But I'm not going to do it too much. But bring up the shadows a tiny bit. Contrast a little bit. And definitely don't want to overdo it because it does look, you know, weird. So I'm going to go up with the exposure a little bit. It depends on the person, right? Sometimes you might want to go different settings, but I think that looks pretty good. So there we go. So there's before and after on that one. I'm hitting P on the keyboard, and you can see that that looks a little bit dull, right? She doesn't have a lot of light going into her eyes, but now that looks better, I think, right? So I'm going to click done, and that is done. I'm going to come back to change face expression because that one is a kind of a big one. Let's go to chin large liquefy. So I'm going to just double click this one. And this is using the liquefy filter, which we'll do a couple of times. But I'm going to go up to, let's duplicate this. I keep saying we should do that. So I'm going to click on that, do Command J or Control J on a PC. That duplicates the layer or any selection that you have. I didn't have a selection, so it didn't duplicate. It duplicated the whole layer. That way I can see the before and after. So now I'm going to go up to filter up here and click on liquefy, which does not turn her into a liquid. It's not like a blender or anything. All right. So now I'm going to grab her down here. You've got face shape. I'm going to go chin height, and you can see this is all AI powered. I can bring her chin up and down. So I'm going to bring her chin up and down a little bit. Bring her jawline. So I went up with the chin a little bit, jawline to the left a little bit, and I could go face width a little bit to the left. And I could do more there too. I think that's probably good. Maybe I want to go just a little bit of push up on this area here. So I'm going to grab, that's the default tool up there. It's called the forward warp tool. I call it the push tool, although maybe there is a push tool. No, I call it the push tool. And then I'm going to go down here and make a pretty big brush. You can use your square brackets just like most of the time. And I'm just going to push up a little bit. Let me zoom in so you guys can see it a little bit. Now you got to be careful with this because you can get it pretty, I'm probably going to get it pretty uneven, but maybe not. Got to be a little bit careful. That's probably good. And then let me go back down and make sure I didn't mess up her chin too much. I think I pushed the whole chin up. Yeah, so that's going to take a little bit of precision work, which I'm obviously not doing at this point. But let me move that. Once you get what you want, you click OK. And then now I can see there's the before and after. Not that she needed that, but that's kind of some pretty cool stuff you can do with liquefy. All right, so now we're going to do dark circles large, or dark circles, sorry. So I'm going to, this one I'm just going to do it in Photoshop. I'm just going to double click. And I'm going to duplicate the layers so I can do what I was saying to do here. So I'm going to Command J. And then I'm going to grab the clone stamp tool right there. It looks like a rubber stamp. Some people call it the rubber stamp tool. And then up to at the top, I've already kind of done this already, so it's already set up. But you want to change the blend mode to lighten and then the opacity to about 50 or so. Something around there. And then what you do with this tool, so this copies, what this tool does is copy pixels from one area to another, but because we did lighten, it's only going to affect darker areas than where we're copying from. And the opacity is reduced, so it's not going to be as pronounced. So that's what we're doing. So I'm going to hold down Option, and this is one of the tools that you need to sample from a certain area. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Actually, I'll zoom in Photoshop. I'm going to sample from a little area down here and then kind of get rid of some of these darker circles. So I'm going to hold down Option, and you see it turns into a crosshair. And then all I do is go up here and paint a little bit. And then I do the same thing over here. Hold down Option, click. That's just your sampling point. And then I'm going to go up here and paint again. So there you go. Those are kind of gone. And then now, since I did that on a separate layer, right, I can play with the opacity slider down here and slide that left and right and then dial in the amount of lightning I want to do. So yeah, pretty cool, right? Whoops, I just undid something. All right, so that one's good. Let's go to dark eyes. So this one I'm gonna do in Camera Raw, I think. So I'm gonna right click, go to Open in Camera Raw. And like I said, you can do a lot of these things in Camera Raw. You could do them in the Camera Raw filter. Actually, let's do it that way. I'm gonna cancel here. I'm gonna show you how to do it as a filter. So I'm just gonna double click. That opens it in Photoshop. I'm gonna duplicate the layer again, for safety's sake. So now I've got two layers that are identical, Command J or Control J, right? And then I'm gonna go up to Filter and then Camera Raw Filter. So the Camera Raw Filter is just like Camera Raw, but it's not in Camera Raw. We're doing it directly in Photoshop here. So it's kind of, yeah, it's like a filter. So I'm gonna click on that. And then I'm gonna go up to the masking tool again, which is very useful, right? Click on that. This time I'm gonna do a brush, because I'm gonna do this manually here. So I'm gonna click on brush right there. And then I could do this using the AI and everything, but I wanted to show you how quickly you can kind of do this just with a brush. So I'm gonna go in here, zoom in on her eyes. And not that they're bad, but I'm gonna make them just a little bit brighter. So I'm gonna just paint real fast just over her eyes. It's a pretty soft brush by default. Now it looks like she's got pink eye or something, right? But now I'm gonna go down to exposure under light. I'm just gonna brighten them up just a tiny bit, right? And I could adjust, yeah, I'm not gonna overdo it. I just did that, that's all I did. So there's before and after, just brightened her eyes just a tiny bit, super fast, right? Like, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds. So I'm gonna say okay, and now you can see the before and after on her eyes there. Unless you like the darker eyes, but I think that looks a little better. All right, so that one is good. Let's do this one again. Let's right click on this one where it says eyes too large. I'm skipping over enhanced lips because we might show that later. And then I'm gonna go to Open in Camera Raw and do the same thing on this one, but this time I'm doing it in Camera Raw and it's the same effect. So I'm gonna click on the mask tool. I'm gonna click on the brush and just paint over here a little bit and just lighten that area just a little tiny bit. But then you can also combine another mask. So we're gonna do the other thing that we did before. I'm gonna click on Create New Mask. So I just did the same thing I did the last time, just to lighten that area just a little bit. But now I'm gonna lighten just the eye parts. So here's, and you can always click here as well. There's a little eyeball right there and you can kind of see, you can turn on and off the things that you did here. So I just turned that on and you can always go back and click on it too and edit it, make her look radioactive or a very evil child, but I don't want to do either one of those, right? Neither one of those. So I'm gonna go right about there. So I got her eye sockets and the eyes a little brighter, but now I'm gonna click on Create New Mask up here. And I'm gonna go to Select People again. And this time we're gonna do the eye trick. So I'll just do both at once. I'm gonna do eye sclera, I can't even say that word. And then iris and pupil. Well, let's do them separate. Let's do eye sclera first, create. And then let's go a little bit exposure there just to brighten the whites, not too much. And I'm gonna desaturate in case she has some, red eyes or anything. And then I'm gonna do one more mask. So I'm doing these separately, you could do them together. I'm gonna create one more mask, select people again. This time I'm just gonna do the iris and the pupil and do what we did on the previous one. I'll click create. And this time I'm gonna bring the exposure up a little bit. And maybe on this one, I'll add a little bit of contrast, just a tiny bit. I'll bring up the shadows just a tiny bit. You don't wanna overdo it, right? And then I am going to go down on this one and add a little bit of saturation on this one. So I'm going to go to the right just to make her eyes a little more colorful. And I could change them and stuff too. There's all kinds of crazy things you could do. But there we go. Maybe I overdid that a little bit, but maybe not. Let me zoom out. I'm hitting P on the keyboard to see the before and after. That's pretty good. I think I might have lightened up a little bit. You can always click on these and adjust them. But I think that's good. I'm going to click done. All right. So next we're going to go to nose. So I'm jumping around here a little bit. Sorry about that. I'm going to go to liquefy on the nose and right click on that. Actually, I'm not going to right click. I'm just going to double click because I'm going to do this as in the Photoshop file. So I'm going to do Command J one more time just to duplicate that layer so I can do the before and after. And then I'm going to go to filter again and liquefy one more time. We'll do it again in a minute. And then there's a couple of ways I could do this. I could go to the pucker tool, which is right here. So it's the fifth one down, and I'm going to make a really big brush and then just click on his nose. If you drag it around, it kind of paints it in, so you have to be kind of careful. I'm going to click again. Maybe I'll do a little bit on the side here. And then maybe he needs a tiny bit more. Maybe that was too much. So if I hold down Option, it goes the opposite way. It actually temporarily selects the bloat tool. That's a bad name. It's the bloat tool. We can make him bloated. No, we don't want to do that. So you can hold down Option and it usually reverses the tools. All right, so there's before and after doing it that way. I can always go back here. There's a lot of tools inside of here. I can always go back and where is it? Reconstruct tool, the second tool here. And if I don't like that, I want to do it a different way. I'm going to reconstruct. Oops. Something's amiss here. Let's try this. Let's just say, okay, I'm going to do it one more time a different way. So I'm going to go here. I don't know why that was saying that, but I'm going to go back down to the original layer. So here's the one I just did using the bloat tool, or the pucker tool, sorry. But I can also do it using a little bit of AI. So I'm going to click on the background again, my original, turn off this one. So to turn it off, you just click on the eyeball. And then I'm going to go here and do Command J to duplicate it again. And I'm going to go to filter again and do it a different way. So I'm going to go to liquefy, still using liquefy. And then over here on the right, you've got nose width and nose height. So I'm going to go nose width and just do that. I just drag to the left a little bit. Boom, there you go. It does stretch everything else out, but it is kind of natural looking, right? And then maybe nose height a little bit, I don't know. I don't think he needed that. So I'll say okay on that. That was fast, right? Maybe too fast. So this one I did using the pucker tool, kind of shrank it. This one I did using the AI nose adjustments. Right, great. All right, so that's good on that one. Let's go to this thinning large free transform. So this one I'm going to double click to open it in Photoshop. So there's different ways to do this. You can do this. This is one of the simple ways, and I kind of like how it works. So you've got the background layer here. I'm going to duplicate it one more time. And then all I'm going to do is hit Command T. It's the Edit Free Transform right here. Edit Free Transform. So I can do it that way on the menu, or I can just hit Command T. And then what I'm going to do is hold down Option and Command on a Mac, or that would be Control Alt on a PC, I believe. And I'm just going to drag in. So you can usually drag like 5%. I'm kind of guessing on that. 5% or so from the side, and then let go. If you do it too much, obviously it looks like something's wrong. Something's terribly wrong, right? But you can do it just a little bit, and I don't want to skew it, so I'm just kind of trying to do that. But there we go. So I'm going to hit Enter on my keyboard to accept that change. And now you can see if I turn on and off that top layer, you know, it's kind of thin. I think I did a little too much, but it does make people not so wide, which is another way of saying thinner. Works on whole bodies too, not just faces, but that's one that's pretty easy to do and you can get away with pretty quickly. Whitening teeth. This is a pretty cool one. I'm going to right click and open on this one in Camera Raw. And then I'm going to click on the mask tool again. This used to be a lot more of a pain. It's pretty easy now with these AI selections. So I'm gonna click on mask. I'm gonna click on person. And then I'm just gonna click on teeth and click create. Oh, that looks terrible, but I'm gonna click create here. Now I'm going to raise the exposure a little bit just to make him a little brighter. And I'm gonna desaturate. And just dial it in where you want. If you go too much, it starts to look kind of weirdly blue or something. So I'm gonna go right there to change the saturation to about -66. But you can do whatever you want. And then I actually added to the exposure somewhere around there, plus 30. So there you go. That is $500 worth of teeth whitening in 10 seconds in Photoshop. It doesn't actually work on your actual teeth. That's the bummer part. But there you go. That's pretty good, right? So I'm going to click done on that one. All right, the next one we're going to do is hotspots. So go ahead and open this one that says hotspots patch tool. We're just doing this one in Photoshop. Oops, it got a little bit messed up there. So there is underneath the spot healing brush, right there is a patch tool. So I'm going to click and hold, and there's the patch tool. And then you've got these hot spots on his skin, right? So the way this works is we're going to make a selection around one. We'll do this one on his forehead, and then you're just going to drag to a clean area. It doesn't matter a whole lot if it is darker or not. I mean, it'd be better probably if it wasn't, but we're going to go over here, and it's going to look kind of dark. And then it looks a little bit strange, right? But what you're going to do next, before you deselect, is you're going to go under Edit and Fade Patch Selection. Sorry, I couldn't see it right away. It's up near the top. Fade Patch Selection. It's kind of like reducing the effect of what we just did. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm just going to drag it down until it starts to get shiny again. So if I go to 0, it's back where it was, right? But then I just dial in the amount I want. I think about maybe 30% on that one. And then say OK, and then you can deselect. You can either hit this button or Command D to deselect. And there you go. Probably should have done that on a separate layer so you could have seen it. Let's do one more. Let's do his nose. Let's see if it works on this smaller spot. I'm going to zoom in. This one might be a little tougher. Let's see. I don't even know if it's going to work, but we'll try it. I'm going to go here, right? Oh, that actually looks pretty good. And then I'm going to go to Edit and Fade Selection or Fade Patch again. So there it is, that way it was. I'm going to dial it. Maybe I'll get rid of it all the way. It's up to you, right? Just do what you want to do. I'm going to say OK. I will deselect. That's not bad. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So you could go in and do the rest of these if you wanted to. Let's do one more real quick. Just his lip. I'm going to go here. I'm just seeing if I can mess this up. It's actually working pretty good. I'm going to go to Edit, Fade Patch Selection again. Click on that, and then maybe I get rid of most of that one again. Say OK, deselect. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, pretty good. So there is a way to get rid of some hotspots. Now, what I should have said at the beginning is when you're actually shooting this is a photography class, by the way, right? You wouldn't want to not have those hotspots in the first place. So that's where a little bit of, the old school makeup would help. But you're better off trying to get a good image in the camera instead of trying to fix it after in Photoshop, if you can. So makeup, powder, right, that kind of stuff. That's why even men wear makeup. Everybody wears makeup when they do photography sometimes. But yeah, that's how that one works. All right, the next one we're going to do is, I think we'll do wrinkles. So this is a good one here. So I'm going to double click this one. It says wrinkles patch. And then this one I am going to do, you have to do a second layer on this one, and I'll show you why in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and Command J again. Another way to do that, by the way, I don't think I told you, is just drag this down to the new layer icon down there, right down there. That's the new layer icon, if I can get that on the screen there. But Command J also works. And then I'm going to use that patch tool again and some other tools. So I'm going to go ahead and, so I'm on the top layer, and you know you're on the top layer because it has the little highlight there. And I'm going to, let's get rid of this big one with the patch tool, see if we can. So I'm going to go here and then drag it down a little bit so you get that little preview, right? That's pretty good. And let me zoom in so you guys can see a little better. I'm going to drag around here. And I'm doing this kind of fast, so, but you can be more careful. You're all better than me. There we go. And then maybe 2 more here. So I'm using the patch tool on this one, but we'll use a different tool here in a second. And there we go. So that, I did his forehead. Now I'm going to go ahead and do some of his under his eyes a little bit. So I'm going to go to the spot healing brush this time and see if this one works okay. I'm just going to go across. Am I on the spot healing brush? Let's deselect here. There we go. Yeah, I guess it kind of worked. You know what I'm going to do? Let's just do a little bit here on the spot healing. Yeah, there we go. And then a little here. I don't think it's working great down here. So that the spot healing brush, the Photoshop picks itself what it wants to use to copy from. I'm going to go to the healing brush, which is similar, but this one you tell Photoshop where you want to copy from. So I'm going to hold down Option like we did before in a different tool. I'm going to hold down Option and click. And then now I'm telling Photoshop that I'm sampling from down here underneath on his cheek. So I'm going to click or hold down Option or Alt on the PC, click. And then I'm going to paste over. That actually works better. I'll do it again here. And I'll do it again here. So I'm holding down Option or Alt, clicking, and then painting over. And it gives you a little preview, which is nice too. So there you go. He obviously has some more wrinkles in that, but that gives you the idea of how you could use those 3 tools to do that. So the problem is though, people that know him or he himself knows that that is not what he looks like this, right? So why does he look like that? He might want that, but then that's, you know, that's not realistic. So the good thing about this technique is by having a second layer here, you can now just reduce the opacity. So the opacity is how opaque or transparent your layer is, right? So it's right there in the layers palette. I'm going to click on that. If I drag to 0, it's gone. This layer is still there, and you can click on the eyeball right there to turn it on and off, but since the opacity is 0, it's not doing anything. So I can drag this opacity slider wherever I want, right there, and then dial in the amount of wrinkle removal, right? How much Botox did we use on them? So if I go all the way to 100, it's all gone, right? If I leave a little bit in, it looks a little bit more realistic, but reduced, right? So now if I put in about 50%, it depends on the person and what you did. But now if I click on that eyeball right there, you can see the before and after. So it's a more subtle reduction, and you still see the wrinkles, they're just not as pronounced. And that depends on the lighting too. If you had lighting that was more from the side, it's going to show wrinkles more, right? We saw that about texture. If light is coming from the side, it's going to show more wrinkles, and it's going to show more texture, which is, wrinkles are texture, right? So so keep that technique in mind if you want to reduce some wrinkles. All right, so we are getting close to done. I wanted to show you Liquify a little bit more. I forgot to do this one earlier, so I'll show you that one, and then one more on Liquify. And yeah, that'll be about it. Maybe we'll do the lips too. So I'm going to double click this one that says Handles Liquify. Looks like that, right? And I wanted to show you quickly how you could use that push tool again. So I'm going to go up to Filter and Liquify right here. Right there, right? And then I'm just going to grab this forward warp tool, which I call the push tool again. And she's got this hip here that's kind of sticking out. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just going to push it in a little bit. Just like that. And you don't want to do it too much, or it looks like some accident has happened, right? But there you go. There's before and after. Or there's after, actually. I didn't say okay. So I'm going to say okay. And there's before and after. Or actually redo. Like that. Quick, right? Okay, one more on liquefy, and this is kind of amazing. It's kind of a big one. Maybe I shouldn't have left it to the end, but here we go. Change face expression. So I'm going to double click on that. So after we open that, we are going to use liquefy to change her expression, make her happier, or sadder, or more alien. So I've got the background layer here, and this one I am going to do duplicate the layer again. Actually, before I do that, since this is a grayscale image, and I'll try to give you guys the color one. So up here, this is the color mode, which actually messes this up a little bit. It's a grayscale image. I need to go up to image and mode and go to RGB. So RGB stands for red, green, and blue. Right now it's a grayscale, which is just gray, and this kind of doesn't work right in this version of Photoshop on my computer in gray, and I don't know if it ever works, actually. So we're just gonna switch to RGB color. You probably won't see a change, but it makes this so this works. All right, so now it says up in the top, you can see RGB. So now I'm going to duplicate that layer. So I go over here and Command J again, right? That duplicates the layer because I want to show you kind of the before and after again. And I'm going to do one more step. I'm going to go over here to the layers panel. I wanted to show you how you can use smart objects to sort of make an undoable or redoable filter, which I haven't shown you, I think, when you're doing liquefy and other things. So over here on the right, I'm going to right click on that layer and go to convert to smart object. So a smart object is kind of like a reference to the original layer. So it's almost non-destructive, like we talked about in Camera Raw, right? You're not actually changing the layer pixels. You're kind of recording what you're doing to that object, but you're not changing the actual object. So the object in this case is that layer. So that, I know that sounds kind of complicated and they're a little strange, but maybe you've seen them before. So that little icon right there means that's a smart object. So now we can do what we want to this, and you'll see that we can edit it after. Yeah. So I'm going to go to filter and then liquefy. So I'm on that top layer. I know I'm on the top layer because it's highlighted with the little box around it. It's a little subtle, but. And then I'm going to go to filter and liquefy. And then it has all this face aware liquefy stuff that we kind of saw quickly before, but now we're going to try it a little bit more. So you can obviously change the eye size, nose, mouth, etc. So here I'm just going to go to smile because she doesn't look happy. And I'm going to go make her smile just a little bit more, right? And then I could probably give her a little bit of a lip job. I don't have to do that, but go like that. And then make her mouth a tiny bit wider, maybe a tiny bit more smile. So you don't want to do too much of this or it gets kind of alien-esque, right? Or weird and manipulated. So if I hit P on the keyboard, you can see like happy, sad, happy, sad. No, she's not sad. Happy, not happy, happy, not happy. So that is how that works. There's a lot more to this. Obviously, there's a lot of things you can do inside of here, but that's the basics of it. So I'm going to say okay. And now you can see that I've got that layer. And then I have, since we made that into a smart object, it now has smart filters on there. And you can see liquefy. So I could turn off that filter with clicking on the eyeball. I can just turn it off. Or I can turn off all the smart filters there. So clicking on the eyeball down here will do that. Or I could drag this to the trash can. I'm not going to do it, but I could drag it to the trash can and get rid of it. So that's pretty cool, right? Obviously I could go, let me do this one more time. I could do crazy things with this. So I'm going to grab this background layer again and do Command J one more time. Okay, so I selected the background layer and did Command J one more time. Now I'm going to do one more convert to smart object. And then we're going to do the same thing, but a little bit more crazy. So here's background copy, right? It has a smart object icon on it. I'm going to go up to filter and liquefy. And then this time I'm going to go crazy. So I'm going to grab her eye size. And this is a little link right here. So if I do one side, it does both. Actually, it's not linked. Let me undo that. I'm going to link it. And then I'm going to go make her eyes bigger. Oh, I got to link them all. Let's link them all. Make her eyes wider and bigger. And a little bit of a tilt that way. And then I'm going to grab her nose and make it very narrow because that's what the aliens look like. I'm going to make her nose longer and I'll make her lips smaller whoops, smaller. And mouth width, smaller, and mouth, smaller. And forehead, should we give her more forehead? Yeah, let's give her more forehead. Shorter chin, I think. I'm going for the Roswell look. There you go. That's pretty good. That looks like that being that I saw in that field at one time. So I'm going to say okay. And then now why can't I see that? I wanted to show you that as well. So I've got layers here, right? Layers work. The top layer is the one that's visible, right? So if I turn that top layer off, I'm seeing this one now. The top layer is the one we added the smile and the puffy lips and things. Here's the alien. Here's our original. And the great thing about these being smart filters is I can go back in and double click this, actually double click liquefy. And then I double clicked on liquefy, if you didn't see that, the word liquefy. And then I open that up and I can make adjustments. Change it to whatever I want, say okay, and it will save those. So it's kind of like you have a way to work on these non-destructively, like I said. All right, so I think that is it for the liquefy filter. And I think that is pretty good. I had one more that I was going to show you, but maybe we'll save that for a different time. But hope that was helpful, and I'll talk to you again later.